October of 2012, 68-year-old Peter McMahon went to visit his girlfriend, 43-year-old Sharon Swinhoe. His family and friends wouldn't see him again. Although they tried to contact him by phone, Swinhoe would answer, telling them Peter did not want anything more to do with them and to leave him alone. They grew more concerned when he also didn't answer their texts. On one occasion, Peter himself told his good friend to leave him alone, but his friend thought that Peter sounded off, not his usual happy self. That was the last time they heard anything from him. Peter, a retired civil servant, was a quiet man who, since his retirement, had felt lonely and wanted companionship. He was a father of two and was soon to become a grandfather, but his family didn't live close to his home in Newcastle. His friends described him as a kind, intelligent, generous and gentle man who would offer his support to those that needed his help. Then one fateful night, while at the local pub, he met 43-year-old Sharon Swinhoe. Right from the start, he was warned by many that Sharon wasn't one to be trusted. They tried to warn him that she was only after his money. They made it clear that they didn't approve of his relationship with the younger woman. Friends saw that she was apparently a powerful influence in his life, and she tended to dominate everything around him. Peter had told his friends that Swinhoe had even gone for him once with a knife. But Peter was besotted with her and showered her with gifts. He wanted to settle down, telling his friends he was going to ask Swinhoe to marry him, and bought her an engagement ring costing over £1,000. On October the 18th, 2012, Peter McMahon got a taxi to Swinhoe's home. What happened next sounds like something out of a horror film, except, unfortunately, this is true. How this all starts isn't known, or even why it happened, but at some time after that date, Peter was subjected to an horrific attack at the hands of Swinhoe and a man who was also in an on-off relationship with her, Joseph Collins, a man who had clung on to the hope that one day he and Swinhoe would have a permanent relationship. At the 6-week trial held at Newcastle Crown Court, the attack was described as sadistic. The pathologist, Dr. Jennifer Bolton, described Peter's injuries in court. He had a fractured and bruised nose, a fractured eye socket, bruising to the left side of his face. His eyes had been gouged, and he had bruising over many parts of his body. Dr. Bolton said, "There has been some form of blunt force assault, and this has resulted in bruising to the left side of the face and a fracture to the nose and bruising to the mouth. This would suggest that there have been at least 2 impacts to the face from, for example, a punch or a kick. There has then been further blows and the potential for blows to the back and upper chest, though the bruising to the back may be as a result of a fall or collapse as part of a struggle. The fracture to the eye socket could have occurred during attempts to gouge out the eyes." Mark Giuliani, prosecuting, said the post-mortem showed evidence of injuries, including broken bones and damage to the eyes, but this was not the cause of death. The cause of death was a cardiac failure. It appears there may have been a sadistic element to this case. Dr. Bolton described how she first saw Mr. McMahon's body, that was wrapped in cloth and tied at both ends, in a freezer at Collins's home. The pathologist said that the presence of post-mortem change showed that death most likely occurred days or weeks after being placed in the freezer. It looked like they had placed the body in the freezer when signs of decomposition first appeared. So horrifying were the details and description of Peter's injuries and the manner in which his remains were treated. The judge told the jurors they would be exempt from having to sit on jury ever again. Peter McMahon's cause of death was a fatal cardiac arrhythmia brought on by Swinhoe gouging out his eyes with her fingernails. His body was then thrown into a dog kennel before Swinhoe and Collins stuffed him into a suitcase. They then called 77-year-old Ronald Douglas, who was also in a relationship with Swinhoe, to help them move the body. Swinhoe and Collins then went on to strip Mr. McMahon's bank account. On the 30th of November, residents in the Elswick block of flats where Collins lived reported a terrible smell coming from Collins's flat. When he was contacted about the complaints, Collins told them the smell was coming from his toilet as it was blocked. On the 1st of December, Swinhoe, who was trying to cover herself, called the police and told them Collins had a dead body in his flat. The police followed up with a visit, and Collins, realising what had happened, took them to where the body was. All three were taken in and then charged with murder. They were also charged with conspiracy to pervert the course of justice. They denied it, but they were all found guilty. Both Swinhoe and Collins were handed life sentences with lengthy minimum terms. Collins was given 20 years for murder and 8 years for conspiracy to pervert the course of justice for hiding Peter's body. Swinhoe was jailed for life with a minimum of 25 years and handed a 10-year sentence for concealing the body, to be served at the same time. Douglas was sentenced to 4 years for his part in helping to move the body, 2 of which were to be served in prison and 2 on licence. Mr. Justice Globe said to Swinhoe, who had her head bowed throughout, "I've no doubt even now you have got no regret for what you have done. You seem to care more for the rats that you kept as pets than the life of the man who loved you." Peter McMahon was a well-liked, respected and generous, mature man, living comfortably on his 2 pensions. His downfall was that he fell victim to your charm that has attracted men to you like magnets. Ultimately, he fell victim to your much more sinister and controlling, violent personality. After the trial, Peter McMahon's family said in a statement, "It is particularly tragic that he not only had his life taken from him, but that these people showed utter disrespect for it afterwards. We still can't believe that anybody could be so cruel, calculated and cold-hearted against our dad. His generosity and good nature were taken advantage of, and he did not deserve for his life to be cut short in this way." On February the 21st, 2021, while serving her sentence at Newhall Prison in Yorkshire, Swinhoe, now 53, contacted C19 and died in hospital.